Alright, first off, clearly I'm very sunburned. I'm peeling right now. I'm a disgusting mess. But I have to wait until I'm done peeling so I can then shave. I look terrible. I just want to get done with this intro and get right behind the camera.
That's 25 rounds right there.
But as someone who is constantly asked, what is the best beginner airsoft replica? I normally have 3 or 4 answers. However, thanks to Arcturus, I think I have a new answer for that question. And it's the Arcturus MK1 LWT. And it can be had for $160 or $210, depending on what package you want. This is meant towards the beginners, which is a bit of a bold move by Arcturus in my mind, as I've always seen them as the high-end manufacturer that includes a lot of extra features and parts in their boxes, especially after the PP19 review that we did not too long ago, which I'm still using with delight without any issues. However, for this review, like any other USAirsoft review, we'll be going over the externals, the internals, the features, the stuff that comes in the box, and I'll give my opinions as to why I think that this is one of the best options for beginners right now. Spoiler, for $160, this is really freaking good. Of course, you can find these on Evike.com, who support USAirsoft more than anyone else, so be sure to use our exclusive link in the description to find anything Arcturus, or make that Evike link your exclusive link when you need anything from Evike, as it directly supports the channel. I'll actually be joining the Evike team at USAirsoft on April 20th for Noob Day in Kentucky, so come say hi if you see me walking around. I'm going to be bringing drinks and just kind of hanging out with you guys. And finally, I wanted to shout out the 14th anniversary event that USAirsoft is throwing on April 13th in Oakwood, Georgia. I can't make this event, but hopefully USAirsoft has the whole store flooded with people and that everyone enjoys themselves there. All the information for both of these events will of course be listed in the description down below. However, with all that read and said now, let's go ahead and start off this Arcturus LWT review where we always begin with the unboxing.
This starts off with the common Arcturus cardboard box, with information all over its surface, from the model sticker that will indicate if your MK1 LWT is black or gray on the side, and the details on the front. You could use this to transport your replica if you would like to, but I would recommend getting a proper bag or case later on. Inside, under a foam piece, the goodies are all scattered about. From a baggie containing an Arcturus patch, sticker, and a Dean's to small type battery connection adapter to the paperwork listing what the replica you have was chronoing at before it left the factory, and a basic but easy to follow owner's manual. The essentials are all here. They even included a backup M110 spring, buffer tube tool, and plastic flip-up backup sights, and a high-cap magazine. But Arcturus went above and beyond for the starter packages that tend to go for about $200, while you can get just the LWT for about $160 to $170. For about $40 more, you get a basic LiPo charger to go along with a 2000 mAh 11.1 volt Li-ion nunchuck battery. I am happy to see 2 options available if you want a MK1 Arcturus LWT, and I can see some fields looking at the beginner packages as a great new upgrade for their rental fleets. You'll have extra springs, batteries, and chargers, so that can be tempting, but as for this review, I'm going to focus on why I think this is one of the new best beginner airsoft replicas in my opinion. That title gets thrown around a lot, so right away, this is a lightweight, high-strength polymer-bodied M4 replica. That's a great start for the younger players out there that don't want to lug around an 8-pound ENL AK or something like that. And as it's a part of the most supported platform in the entire game, magazines can be had just about anywhere, along with any replacement parts you might need in the future. All of the stuff in the box can be seen as bonus points, especially focusing on the included lithium-ion battery that can run until it's completely dead, before you use the included charger to just bring it back. maybe consider training with a lithium-ion battery before trying out LiPo batteries, because you don't want one of those to completely die, or you're going to have some problems down the line. But starting off at the rear this time, the pseudo crane stock is very easy to access, which is great for the younger players who might not have much grip strength to pop off some other styles of butt pads. Inside, you have a lot of room for any of the popular modern day airsoft batteries of your choice. I'd even say that you could store a smaller battery in this stock if you want to use an Arcturus LWT in really long games. As you can see though, we have some really beefy Deans or T connections as compared to the more basic Deans connections some other replicas come with nowadays. And further down the connections is a basic MOSFET, which is always nice to see for added electronic security. Closing the nicely rubberized butt pad and appreciating the double-sided quick detach sling point slot, the stock can be placed in one of 6 positions along the aluminum buffer tube. Then finally, we have another more traditional sling point against the receiver area. Skipping over to the barrel and handguard, we get the common placed US regulated plastic orange tip here in the United States, but it does have 14mm counterclockwise threads underneath that you can use to add on an amplifier, suppressor, or any other device that you would like. Of course, the 2-piece outer barrel is aluminum, and it surrounds a 6.02mm steel QPQ treated inner barrel. The same barrel that gave my $600 Arcturus PP19 carbine some of the best accuracy and range that I've ever had in any of my reviews. And all around this is a polymer M-LOK handguard that you can customize to your heart's content. I would have liked to have seen some included rails in the box though. The 2-inch rails at the end of the handguard can still be useful for flashlights, but as something aimed towards beginners, this will do. Along the top, the monolithic style Picatinny rail is great for any sights that you could ever need, but you could always slap on those included plastic sights that were in the box. They flip up with a lot of authority, and the adjustments for elevation with the front sight and windage in the rear are simple enough. This is Airsoft after all, so do with these as you wish, or slap a sight on top of the rail to make things even easier on the eye. Then wrapping up the exterior, the controls are as basic as M4s get. The selector switch can only be found on the left side, and it clicks very audibly into each position. The magazine release can only be found on the right side, and it's very basic. It's not enlarged or anything else, but it does its job well. It drops magazines effortlessly. I am happy to see a lockable mock bolt once you pull back the T-handle, which will expose a rotary hop-up. And once you're done making your adjustments, just hit the release on the left side. It works as it should. Overall, this is a very basic M4 when you really look at it. And that's actually a really good thing. This will help people get used to the basics of Airsoft. I like the textured motor grip with its stipples, the big stock that a monkey could use, and again, I like how it's all basic, but not vacant of great features. And this is coming from someone who really gets bored of M4s most of the time. I understand what they're good for though, and that's why I recommend them constantly to people just starting off in the airsoft world. But with the exterior wrapped up, let's take a look at the gearbox. This is where I would like to tell you guys to watch Kilo23's video as well if you would like 2 internal breakdowns. It's always good to have more than one review to look at, so remember to do your own research. But with everything out now, I can spot 2 interesting features of this so-called version 2 hybrid gearbox. One would be the extension to the rear to allow for quick spring changes right from the buffer tube, or with the buffer tube removed with the aid of the included tool from the box. And I can see both radial cuts and reinforcing added to the edges of the cylinder window. That's very much appreciated. The spring was linear as expected, but the plastic spring guide was without a ball bearing. I also noted how the sector gear was backed up by a bushing, while the spur and bevel ride on bearings. And I love the window in the gearbox shell for the anti-reversal latch, along with how tightly our delayer chip was along the sector gear. For the compression parts, the ported cylinder came with a ball bearing inside. The piston sported all steel teeth. There was no O-ring with the air nozzle, but the air seal together with the single O-ring around the cylinder head and the standard rubber padding was stellar. I'm not sure if this is something to expect of Arcturus moving forward, but it tends to be when dealing with their replicas. As for the average stuff, however, the shimming could be a lot better with a couple spare minutes, and the motor was void of any identification, but asking my contacts at Arcturus, I was told that it's a standard 19K ferret motor. We also noticed that the tappet plate was chewed up a bit around the end. Then with everything back together and at the chronograph, FPS was very consistent, as I'd expect of Arcturus, at around 390 with 0.2 gram BBs. Then with the included 2000 mAh 11.1 volt Li-ion battery for the starter packages, 17 rounds per second was reasonable. It was nothing out of the ordinary, especially for most stock replicas used for field skirmishes. If this is a little too powerful for the games you would like to use it in, then go ahead and throw in the lower powered spring. You should then be able to use it at most, if not all, US CQB sites at sub 350 feet per second. With the original spring back inside and a swap to 0.28 gram BBs, 100 feet, of course, won't be a problem at all. So I moved on to 200 feet with 7 mile per hour winds crossing the range, and I was still able to hit my target over and over. I'm just seeing a lot of the exact same performance that we saw in the last Arcturus review, but in a much cheaper setup that any beginner can stomp with. I was initially hoping for this. I've said it before, but Arcturus just needs to keep this up as they develop more and more replicas to fill their catalog. Because now we have a great beginner gun that's very consistent, basic, and easy to use, that can go toe-to-toe with just about anything that you would commonly find on the field. The trigger is snappy, and you can really spam it once you get used to the almost real brake that Arcturus has implemented into it. There's just a lot of little things that start to mount up to make this into something that I really like. But since there's nothing else really for me to talk about now, let's go on over to our rating system that I have for the USAirsoft channel. So starting off with performance, it was exactly what I expected in terms of range and accuracy. We have roughly the same hop-up and barrel setup as the limited edition PP19s that I reviewed not too long ago, so of course it would do well at range. Power consistency was tight, and even though the rate of fire wasn't anything spectacular, I don't think any beginner needs 25 rounds per second. So I feel very comfortable giving the LWT an 8 out of 10. Everyday play was, of course, going to be stellar from the get-go. It's a basic M4 with field-worthy range, a bunch of goodies from the box even if you don't get the starter package variant, and it's lightweight thanks to the durable polymer body. We've seen M4s do 1 or 2 of these traits really well, but Arcturus has a really great contender for one of the best beginner-friendly replicas with the LWT, so I have to give it a 9 out of 10. Go figure. Collector value, on the other hand, is gonna be terrible for anyone who cares. No one on the earth is trying to collect dozens of these basic M4s from Arcturus. These are contenders for rental fleets, not something to be put into a glass case in some bougie trophy room. I would even go so far to say that these have no collector value. However, it's not like people are trying to throw these out of the store because they absolutely do not want them there. So I have to give it a 2 out of 10. I just can't do any better than that. Build quality is good for what it can be as a polymer M4 with key parts made from aluminum. Nothing rattles or stands out as excessively cheap, apart from the sights, by a little bit. You could argue that some ambidextrous controls would have been really nice, but I know that would have forced an increase in the price. It's good at what it's meant to do, but don't expect anything more than a 6 out of 10 from me. Then worthiness is another point you probably could tell is easy for me to judge. Arcturus has been on one of the best streaks for successful replicas that I've seen in a very long while, and this just extends that again. Of course, I would absolutely like for you to do more research if you're really interested in the LWT. There are a few videos out there that you can find with a quick YouTube search, but as for me, the price along with the performance and extras that come with both the standard and starter package just makes monetary sense to me. It's not even an argument of worth anymore, but more of a topic of what little things could have made it a little better. Maybe metal sights, maybe just some ambidextrous controls for the lefties, maybe even some extra Picatinny rail segments for the M-LOK rail. I really need to review something other than Arcturus's, or people are going to start thinking that I only say good stuff about everything. But honestly, I think I want to give the LWT a worthiness rating of a 9 out of 10. So if you add all the scores together, you get a 34 out of 50. The collector value hurts the score a bit, but just about everywhere else, the Mark 1 LWT shines. It's gonna go by a lot of older players as just another M4, but the performance shines to me, along with all the beginner-oriented traits. I'd recommend this piece to all my close friends who are looking to get into the game. And funny enough, I can also recommend other Arcturuses if they want to stick to the Arcturus brand, because the AK family that they have is full of great stuff. Arcturus is doing a lot to win over the community by covering all the bases, and I hope they continue that trend, as it will be doing a lot more for the airsoft industry once other companies take Arcturus so seriously that they have to really compete against them. That will get more innovation flowing throughout the beginner end and the high end.
Of course, I want to thank Arcturus for letting me tear into these LWTs to find anything that I wanted to talk about. They don't restrict these reviews in any way, and I really appreciate that. They let me say anything I want about these. But of course, do your own research, look up other videos that are out there about these LWTs or anything else so you can find other pros and cons that other reviewers might have found, or so you can compare quality control. It's always best to do your own research here. But be sure to check out the description for our exclusive Evike link, and be sure to use it every time you need anything from Evike.com, as it directly supports the USAirsoft channel. However, I want to thank you all for watching and for putting up with all this. Hopefully in the next video I won't be peeling anymore, but until that next video drops from the city of San Antonio, this has been Scott Hollenbeck, and I will be sure to see you all next time.
Okay, Tony, so you've had 2 games with it. What do you think?
Yeah, I love how light it is. Even though it's plastic, it's actually really, really durable. I feel like I can run a lot faster, a lot farther, just because of its weight. And actually, out of the box, it's actually really accurate.
Now, for $160, do you think with just those 2 games and experience, you would recommend this to a beginner?
I didn't know it was that cheap. That's pretty awesome. I don't ever really look at the $160 guns, but this feels like easily like a $250 gun.
The trigger, what do you think about that? That clickiness?
Yeah, it definitely has a snappiness to it. Also, like, I know it's factory, but I like how you can hear everything on it. It's a very reassuring click that I'm on safe or I'm on semi. But for $160, yeah, I wish I would have known this when I first started. Pretty awesome.